for a year.
That's a tough job, man.
Tough job, not making diddly squat.
Yeah.
You know, thankfully didn't have any bills coming out of college.
Yeah.
So I'm working at Scott County Central. Corey Atkinson takes over as the head coach at East Prairie, and he says, "Hey man, I need an assistant coach. You mentioned one time you wanted to coach," and you know, I just dove in. I didn't know any better. I just knew one way. You know,
Yeah.
what I've been taught my whole life. Just, hey, if you work hard enough, it's going to happen. Something's
Yeah.
going to work out right.
That's right.
We were really talented that year, to the point where our talent exceeded our coaching. You know, Corey was in his first year as a head coach. I was in my first year coaching. We had a guy, Gary Scott, who's our head baseball coach. He was maybe in his third or fourth year coaching football. So, you know, our talent really exceeded our experience. So, you know, looking back, I'm like, man, we should have done this or done that. Well, heck, we didn't know. We were still kids ourselves as coaches. Right. You know, but you know, we were successful that first year. We had a winning season. East Prairie hadn't had a winning season in about 10 or 12 years. So I was bit, man. I was bit by the bug.
Yeah.
And, you know, I started, you know, I got lucky with my job at Scott County Central. I was working in the computer lab for the first couple hours of the day with kids. So, you know, that off season when it's done, you know, I convinced Corey to let us start, you know, working out after school with the kids on top of their, you know, workouts during the day in class. And, you know, I'm just watching film every morning.
Yeah.
You know, in the off season, I'm you know, on CoachHuey.com, and I'm on, you know, every coaching website I can find, just trying to just get the secret.
Yeah.
You know, what's the secret? All along, turns out, I'm figuring it out.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily figuring out the game, but figuring out what the secret to the game is.
Yeah.
You just got to work.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, that's, to me, I had the hardest time, and you're like, really? Like, so, I'm trying to think, like, okay, so, without talking like this really long story, I did my student teaching at Blue Springs High School.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And, like, I didn't get to do it during football season, did it during the spring. And so, but at lunch, I had lunch every day with the Blue Springs head coach, Kelly Donahoe, and
Yeah,
Roger Lower, and some of these, like, I mean, like, legends of coaching. Like,
Yeah, Hall of Famers.
If you've ever been to, I'm just telling you, like, at Blue Springs High School, if you've ever been in their gym, I taught in their gym and in their weight room for my student teaching. And I swear to God, it took me a month to get over. I'm just looking at the rafters and everything. It's amazing. It is amazing. You can't take it all in. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And like they have one hallway. You know how like we get those district plaques with Misha, you know, and then they have another hallway where they get all their conference plaques.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's almost floor to ceiling down these hallways.
Wow.
I mean, it's insane. I mean, it is insane. But anyways. So I'm sitting there going, I'm looking at all this success these guys had, you know, and that's why I wanted to go there. I was like, Minnie and I, we're gonna move to Blue Springs and do our student teaching, you know. And so, anyways, we're in there, and I always thought, like in school, you're always taught to find the right answer. Like you're always taught, like, and I'm really good at taking tests. I mean, I am. Like I'm really good at that kind of stuff. So in my brain, I'm always like, well, what's the right answer? So I'd ask Kelly, you know. Well, what kind do you do? What's the best kind of blocking to do? What's the best kind of this? What's the best kind of that? And to come to find out, there is no right answer.
No.
Like you run the wing tee. I hate the wing tee. I ain't gonna lie to you. Every time we gotta go against you guys, or we gotta go against somebody else who runs sting wing tee, do a defense, I'm pissed off about it because I don't really enjoy it. I don't like it. I just don't. I'm just being honest with you. It's not my thing. I mean, I grew up running. I think they ran some wing tee or something at Dexter. I don't know, full. I don't even know what the hell we ran. Wishbone is what we ran when I was a kid. And then we got into Coach Pixley with the eye and all that stuff. But I don't like wing tee. But that doesn't mean it ain't the right answer because it is the right answer, you know. And now there's all this spread stuff, and that's also the right answer. But in my brain, when I was 22 or whatever, I thought you had to find the right answer.
Oh,
The
yeah.
right answer is whatever the heck you find and you work your ass off and get good at. Like so. You know, here I am trying to. I've been so conditioned to find the right answer. You know, well, I'd ask him. He'd look at me like I'm nuts. I'm like, dude, no. I'm like, no. What do you do? Because he was talking. I was like, do you zone block or man block? You know, and how do you do this or how do you know me? If you know me for more than 10 minutes, you know I'm gonna ask about 8 million questions as soon as I feel comfortable. And it was just crazy to think that I'm sitting here trying to find this right answer. When all along he was like, what you said, work your tail off and figure it out. You know? And that's, you know.
You know, with us, it's. As coaches, I think you got to coach what you know and what you can correct.
Yeah.
And then what fits your kids.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I think if you could develop a system that's like a toolbox, You just pick which tool fits your kids. Maybe one year it's, you know what, we're big up front, we're going to run a lot of power.
Yeah.
Well, this year we're not real big up front, so we're going to drop that QB back 5 yards and we're going to sling it down the edge because we can't run out there, so let's just toss it out there and see what happens.
Right. And I feel like, and I coach defense here, and I'm doing it for a while, and I feel like that's that is one of the best parts about your wing T stuff, because you can adapt it to the different ways the kids you got. So I mean, I just don't like going against it as a defensive coach because it bothers me, it frustrates me.
You know, and you talk about that. Two of those ideas that I stole from two guys that you know well. You know, I stole those ideas from Aaron Pixley and from Joel Wyatt.
Yeah.
You know, from watching those two guys, because those are really the two guys that I watched as a young coach.
Yeah.
You know, Joel was kind of new on the scene in 2009 here at Malden, but I noticed him pretty quick. You know, and I've watched Coach Pixley since I was young. And a lot of what we did when we had some guys, especially like in 2013, 14, and 15, were kind of patterned after the stuff that Pixley was doing when he had Ben Mills at QB. I was like, okay, I like that stuff. Let's use that.
Yeah.
And then some of my ideas with, you know, let's do different formations and let's put kids in the right place to be successful. Well, that's Joel Wyatt, 100%.
100%.
You know, Joel sees what he has. He's got a system. He's got a foundation. But he goes, okay, I got this kid. Well, this kid can do this really well, so let's put him in position to do that. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, two guys like that, have shown me is, you know, we can be flexible and make it fit for the kids. Not every, you know, newsflash, not everybody is like that. You know, some people just say, hey, you're going to do this, and we're going to either win with it or lose with it.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, flexibility and adaptability,
yeah,
you know, are two things that I've learned from those two guys just from watching them.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, that's what we tell our kids on defense. Like, we have a game plan, we have an idea what we're going to do. And I said, when they change, we'll adjust. And I said, it's just like in science, boys. If you don't, those who do not adapt, die.
No doubt.
And so that's what we tell them every week. I'm like, when they adapt, we'll adapt. And that's, you know, so far that's been okay. We got some.
I would say a little bit more than okay.
We got some really good players right now too. So I mean, it is what it is. But it is after working so hard and losing before we moved to Kennett, you know.
Yeah.
Like to work. I ain't gonna lie, man. I mean, because I was head coach before, and you know just how much work you do. And I do a lot of work on defense, but like, I don't know if I could have worked any harder than I worked at those other places. I worked so hard, and we still didn't win very much. We won some, and we consistently got better.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the thing. We got better consistently. Did a lot of neat things with it. But now to work really hard too and actually have some success with it, it just feels, because you felt the other side, you know.
Oh yeah.
It just feels
it's gratifying.
Yeah, it's so good. Like it just, because I remember, you know, when you're a public figure and you're working hard and you're not necessarily winning, you know, everybody's like, talking about you, this and that. Why don't they do this, or why don't they do that, or why doesn't he do this? He's not very good. And then to come to somewhere else and try, I mean, I just am what I am.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know me. Like, I'm just me. Like, I'm not real good at being anything other than me.
You get what you get, right?
Yeah. And for us to be able to have some success now, yeah, man, it just feels good.
Oh, no doubt.
You just, you know, because it's like in the back of your mind, you know, you're going, oh, I remember when you guys were talking bad about this. You know, now that we're winning, you know, maybe you were wrong. So I don't know. That's just me, super competitive about this stuff. But anyways, let's get back to this. So you come back, you started East Prairie, you're working there. You got so there's you working and Corey working, and then so you were the assistant. So take us through how now you've been. What year did you become over as a head coach?
Well, I was an assistant for Corey in 05 and 06, and Corey left and Jason Aycock came back. And I was assistant for Aycock in 2007 and 2008. We were really successful in 2008. And then I left after 2008. I left and went to Scott City in 09 and 10 with Corey Axon. Corey went to Scott City, and I'm like, hey, man, I'll follow you. Let's go to Scott City and spend some time with Jim May. The head coach there, and Jim and I are really good friends.
I've heard a lot of good stuff about him.
Oh, Jim's a great guy, great coach. And, learned some stuff from Jim. Spent 2 years with Jim. Just the drive back and forth from East Prairie to Scott City. You know, we didn't make the move. Was
what
tough.
Is that, about 30 minutes, 45?
About 40-minute drive.
40-minute drive,
40-minute drive daily. And there were times during the summer, I'm going to 6 a.m. workouts and 6 p.m. workouts. So, I'm driving a couple times a day and trying to work in between. And In 2012, East Prairie calls me, or 2011, I'm sorry, calls me, offers me a teaching job, an assistant football job. So I go there. I'm the defensive coordinator again at East Prairie. I'm teaching history in 2011. And then Acock decides that he's kind of done being a head coach. He wants to get into the administration game again. And 2012, it's opened up. And I take over in 2012. And I've been there since then.
Man, that's cool. That's a cool story on how you end up there. And I mentioned a couple times I think you do a good job. Like, there's things that aren't measurable that I know that you guys try to do there.
Yeah.
Like what we talked about positive experiences and everything like that. And I know that's, outside looking in, but that when I see that, well, like I wouldn't care if my kids, I'd be fine if you coached my kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
man, that's
you know
a
what
hell
I
of a
mean?
compliment.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Stuff like that. Like it
Yeah.
wouldn't bother me. Wouldn't bother me a bit, and we always talk, and we've helped each other in track and different things. So that's what I think about that. But so let's talk about your family a little bit. Like so we've talked a lot of professional stuff. You've been coaching track, you coach football. I know you admire the JAG program.
Oh, no doubt.
Changes things. But let's talk a little about your family. So you got your wife. How'd you meet your wife?
When I moved back to East Prairie in 2003, 2004, she was going to school at SEMO.
Okay.
And she was a waitress at a local restaurant.
Yeah.
And I went in that restaurant one summer every day.
To see her or to eat her both?
Both.
Both. Okay.
They had some good sandwiches, some good sweet tea,
Yeah.
and to see her too.
Hey.
And it took me all summer, but I worked up the nerve. As a matter of fact, the story goes in May I went in and my buddy Jason Acock and I were having lunch. He's like, you know what girl you need to ask out on a date? And he pointed over at my future wife Sarah, and I was like, I don't know, man. I said, I don't know if she'd go out on a date with me.
Right.
Well, then I get home and I throw the idea off my buddy Corey, because Corey and I were roommates at the time. But Corey's like, yeah, you should ask her out. And it took all the way up until the last week of July. So May, June, and July. So it took me about 12 weeks to go into her there. And I just kind of nervously looked at her and I'm like, hey, you think you might be hungry tonight? And of course she looked at me like I was a moron. She's like, of course I will be. Everybody eats at night.
Right.
Well, I'm asking if you want to go out on a date. And,
Yeah.
And she went out on a date with me that night, and we haven't been away from each other since for 14 years.
That's cool.
Yeah, we got married 6 months later, Christmas Eve. I asked her to marry me, and we got married in the Bahamas on August 2nd, 2006, and and then on Christmas Eve of 2013, my daughter came along. So we.
That's exciting, boy.
No,
it's like electric, man. Just I didn't ask my wife to marry me at 6 months in, but I could have. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
It's weird. It's weird how when you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, oh, describe it. I don't know how to describe that. But seriously though, when you know, you know. That's
the second she sat down in my truck, I was like, this one's got to stick around. And my parents knew it too. It was Thanksgiving or around Thanksgiving. My mom and dad called me up that night, and they're like, hey, come over to the house. So I go over to my mom and dad's house, and they set me down at the kitchen table. And this is no joke. My dad looks at me and says, you got to ask that girl to marry you, or you're going to run her off.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't know, Dad. And he's like, I'm telling you. He said, you make it happen.
Yeah.
And even my parents knew that it was destined to be. So Christmas Eve, I asked her if she'd spend the rest of her life with me.
That's cool.
She said, yeah.
Let's talk about kids for a minute. You want to talk about some kids? About your kids? Talk to me about it.
I got a little girl. I got a little girl. She's 6 years old, and she's rotten, man.
Really?
She's rotten, and that's my fault.
Yeah.
It's my fault. She is definitely, a daddy's girl. Mama's the disciplinarian. I'm the one that's, sneaking the sugar behind Mama's back.
Yeah.
She was born on Christmas Eve, 2013, she's amazing, man. She's amazing. I'm blessed. And I know we toss that word around a lot, but to be 40 years old, I'm going into being 40 years old. I've been married for 14 years. My daughter will be 7 in Christmas. I haven't experienced, my life experience has been better than most probably. I've had, great experiences growing up. I couldn't ask for more. The Lord has blessed me beyond measure. And I know He blesses us all, but I'm talking about my blessings right now. And I got a good one. She's in there in that other room playing with your blessings right now.
That's right.
You know, having a good time. And, you know, that's one of the great things about, you know, about being a parent is you have an opportunity to think back to your mistakes and try to help mold your child into the person that you want them to be.
Right.
You know, ultimately they are going to make their decisions, but if you can give them the tools in that toolbox to make those right choices, you know, that's what we're trying to do. Now, like I said, I'm a softie.
Yeah.
I'm a soft parent. You know, I give my daughter pretty much whatever she wants. Thank goodness Mama's there, because
Right.
if it wasn't for Mama, we'd be raising a rotten
Just
child.
spoiling it rotten.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, you know. But Mama helps keep us grounded. It also helps too that, you know, Mom is a kindergarten preschool teacher, so she knows kids that age.
Yeah.
And what's going on with kids that age, what's going on internally with them, and you know that's we've been really lucky. You know, throughout this pandemic, we haven't missed a beat. You know, we have a tutor come in twice a week. We're fortunate to have some good friends that come in, and because we tried to work with her school-wise, and that does not work. You know,
Yeah.
when your parents or teachers, that's not going to happen.
That's tough.
And so, you know, we've been fortunate enough to have Gretchen Hanlon come in and work with Isla throughout this pandemic, and she hasn't missed a beat getting ready to go into first grade. And it's just, I can't explain it, man. That's one of those things you know, like, you know, it's the same way with being a parent. It's just, you can't put it into words.
I know it. That's just, yeah. And I'm glad I had a girl first, and Ariel, I think she's so tough just because she had to be, because I was her dad. But like, I needed that. You know, when you get pregnant, you're like, oh, it'd be cool if it was a boy. You know how most boys are, and I was the same. But when Ariel showed up, like, God knew what He was doing, giving me a girl first, because like I was still pretty tough on her, because I'm just, I don't know, I'm just that way about my own kids or whatever, I guess. But like, Ariel's taught me more, and thank goodness for Ariel teaching me, because Tazy worked out better with that, but about not being so hard on them and stuff, you know, and like I was just, you know, I've learned so much. It's weird how you just learn from your kids, but you're right, man, blessings.
Isn't it, it's graceful how, you know, God knows what we need and when we need it.
I know, it's weird.
You know, and that's especially with my daughter, you know. God knows that every year I got 40 boys.
Yeah.
I don't need any more boys in my life.
I need more boys, that's right.
I needed a girl in my life.
Yeah.
You know, and a girl that would teach me how to be a little bit more humble. A girl to teach me, you know, more grace. You know, my wife helps me with the humility part. She keeps me pretty grounded and humble.
Yeah, mine too.
You know, but you know, sometimes it's okay to be silly.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, especially, you know, as a male in a male-dominated profession that we're in coaching football, you know, having a little girl really makes life a little bit better for the boys that you're around, because you realize that, hey, these kids are going through things that maybe they're not able to process and talk about. So maybe we need to handle this with a little bit softer touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
Absolutely. All right, I got 2 questions left for you. And we always ask one silly one here toward the end, and then one that I think is important. Well, I just want to, hang on, before I ask you the last 2 questions, I just wanted you to touch, you know, you are, every video, guys, you know, I try to plug JAG. I think it's super important. Coach Jamerson, you are in a school that has JAG, and they've done it for a few times. I think this year you guys might be taking a break just for a year to come back due to the pandemic, which is totally understandable. But what have you seen JAG do for the students in your school?
Confidence. The kids that were around Coach Golightly in the JAG program, I think the biggest thing was just the way the kids carried themselves among the student body. I think Coach Golightly taught them, you know, first of all, the program is everything that you're looking for as a coach or as a leader.
Absolutely.
I mean, basically that's what it is. It is a super in-depth, extensive leadership class. It's preparation for life is what it is. And I can tell the difference in the kids that went through that program with Coach Golightly. Just the confidence, the way they carry themselves among the student body. You know, they kind of had it figured out a little bit more. You know, they'd experienced some things. Once again, it comes back to that word, experiences.
Yeah.
You know, the JAG program offers experiences to these kids that you're probably not getting in a normal classroom. different lessons, different things that are presented to you in a more maybe abstract way. There's no right answer sometimes.
Right.
You know, and I think that's a secret in life. Is sometimes you just gotta, close your eyes and walk. I think that's what the JAG program provided for our kids, was the idea that, hey, there's no right answer. Sometimes you gotta shovel the poop and figure it out yourself.
That's right.
And there was an air of confidence about them, and it took a little bit of time. It took a month or two into the program before even Coach Golightly was confident 100% in it. But I felt like when he hit his stride, man, the kids went from here to here in a hurry.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where you're looking at it. From my standpoint, I'm like, hey, how do we get more of my kids in there?
That's right.
Because you could tell the difference in the JAG kids that were at football practice and at track practice.
Yeah.
There was just a little bit more of a, hey, there's a little bit more ownership here.
Mm-hmm.
We understand what that ownership means. And I think a lot of that also had to do with we picked the right guy at East Prairie.
Yeah.
To take over our JAG program.
Yeah.
It was the perfect fit for Coach Golightly. He's a big. I feel like Dalton's a guy that's really big on relationships,
sure,
on building and developing relationships, and he understands that that's part of life. And I think that was something he really brought to the table with those kids was, hey, we're all connected somehow, some way. So let's figure it out.
Yes, sir.
It was awesome.
That's great. All right. So one silly question before we ask you a question for kids. So if you could have one superhuman power, what would it be?
Travel in time.
Travel in time. Okay.
I'd like to travel in time.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of good memories that I have that I would love to go back and see again.
Oh, that'd be cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.